In the 3rd year of the reign of King Jehoiakim of Judah, as the sun set behind the walls of Jerusalem, a terrifying shadow loomed over the horizon. It was not a storm, but an army. The Babylonian Empire, the terror of the age, marched forward to claim dominance. War drums shook the earth, and dust clouds choked the air before the people could even see their enemy. Sentinels on the walls shrieked in warning, but everyone knew what was coming. Babylon arrived like an unstoppable river, sweeping away every fortress. Now Jerusalem was the next target. The gates were shattered, and chaos erupted in the streets. Houses were plundered, and in the heart of the city, where the temple of God stood, the invaders showed no mercy. The sacred vessels and treasures of the temple were seized and carried far away to Babylon, all placed in the temples of pagan gods. But Babylon did not just conquer with the sword, it sought to conquer the mind. King Nebuchadnezzar issued a decree: choose from the children of Israel the wisest, strongest, and most talented youths. Bring them into my palace, teach them the wisdom of Babylon, make them forget their God, their customs, and their language. Let them serve my kingdom. Thus the elite young men of Israel were shackled and dragged from their homeland, marching across the red-dusted desert, leaving behind everything familiar. Among them, 4 names would be etched into history: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Upon arriving at the gates of Babylon, the sight was like a strange dream. Golden towers, colossal temples, and an hanging garden sparkled with divine light. Babylon was more than a capital. It was the symbol of absolute power. The first thing to be violated was their identity. You are no longer Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, they were told. Your Hebrew names speak of a God who has been defeated. From now on you shall bear Babylonian names to honor our gods. Thus Daniel was called Belteshazzar. Hananiah became Shadrach, Mishael became Meshach, and Azariah became Abednego. The palace table was laden with delicacies, roasted meats and fine wines in golden cups. Daniel stood silent, his heart troubled. The aroma was enticing, but a voice inside whispered, "Do not do this." These foods had been offered to idols. To sit at this table was to accept Babylonian culture and bow to its power. Daniel looked at his friends and saw the same resolve in their eyes. Daniel approached the overseer and said firmly, "Please let us eat only vegetables and drink water for 10 days, then compare us to those who eat the king's food." Fearing the king's wrath, the overseer reluctantly agreed. 10 days later, their faces were radiant, their minds sharp, and their health superior. God had sustained them. Daniel and his friends became 10 times wiser than all the magicians and astrologers in the kingdom. One night, Nebuchadnezzar was haunted by a dream. He demanded his wise men not only interpret the dream, but describe the dream itself, or face execution. When all failed, Daniel prayed to the God of heaven. In a vision, the mystery was revealed. Daniel stood before the king. "No wise man can do what you ask, but there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries." He described a colossal statue. Its head was of gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, legs of iron, and feet of mixed iron and clay. Then a stone cut out without human hands struck the feet, and the entire statue crumbled into dust, while the stone grew into a mountain that filled the earth. "You, O king, are the head of gold," Daniel explained. "But after you, other kingdoms will rise, each inferior to the last. Finally, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed." Overwhelmed, Nebuchadnezzar fell prostrate and declared, "Truly, your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings." Years later, pride consumed the king. He built a 90-foot golden statue and commanded everyone to worship it at the sound of music. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused. Infuriated, the king threatened them with a fiery furnace. They replied, "Our God is able to save us, but even if he does not, we will not serve your gods." The furnace was heated 7 times hotter, so hot it killed the guards who threw them in. But as the king watched, he leaped up in shock. "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire? I see 4 men unbound walking in the fire. and the fourth looks like a son of the gods." He called them out. Not a hair on their heads was singed, they didn't even smell of smoke. The king decreed, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego." Despite the miracles, Nebuchadnezzar's pride remained. He had another dream of a great tree that was chopped down, leaving only a stump. Daniel interpreted it with a heavy heart. "The tree is you, O king. You will be driven from men, live like a beast, and eat grass like an ox for 7 years until you acknowledge that the Most High rules the kingdoms of men." 12 months later, while the king boasted of his greatness on the palace roof, the prophecy came true. His reason departed. For 7 years he lived in the fields, his hair growing like eagle feathers and his nails like bird claws. Only when he finally looked up to heaven and honored God was his sanity and kingdom restored. Time passed. A new arrogant king named Belshazzar held a great banquet. Had he committed the ultimate sacrilege, using the sacred gold vessels from Jerusalem's temple to drink wine and toast his idols? Suddenly a disembodied hand appeared and wrote on the wall in letters of fire, "Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin." Daniel was summoned to read it. "God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. You have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians." That very night Belshazzar was slain, and Babylon fell to Cyrus the Great. Under the new reign of Darius the Mede, Daniel's rivals grew jealous. They tricked the king into signing a law that no one could pray to any god or man except the king for 30 days. Daniel, however, continued to pray to God 3 times a day at his open window. Bound by his own law, a distraught Darius was forced to throw Daniel into a pit of hungry lions. The next morning, the king rushed to the den and cried out in grief. Daniel answered, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel to shut the lions' mouths." Daniel emerged without a single scratch. King Darius issued a new decree. "All people must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God whose kingdom shall never be destroyed." Daniel prospered through the reigns of Darius and Cyrus. Though empires crumbled and kings passed away, Daniel proved that the sovereignty of God is eternal. "The righteous shall shine like the stars forever and ever,"